Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the IR podcast in quarantine. This podcast is brought to you by the Incandescent Review, a nonprofit teen-run literary magazine. The IR podcast is hosted by four teenagers across the U.S. I'm Ocean.
I'm Angeli.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Ethan.
So, in the past few weeks following the murder of George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter movement has been gaining national and global attraction. I mean, it has always been an ongoing fight, but I guess right now, non-Black people are finally not able to ignore the problems. So in this episode, we'll be discussing police brutality and systematic racism. And we have a special guest today, a doozy in the critical writing team. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm 16 years old. I kind of have a unique perspective in the view of police brutality. It's because my mom is a public defender, so she's kind of on the front lines of our entire criminal justice system, and a lot of people she represents are either victims of police brutality in and of itself, or just the general injustices in our criminal justice system. So I've kind of grown up around that. I still see it every day. So the last few weeks have definitely been interesting.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, so that's a special. I'm glad you have that insight because I didn't know that before I invited you on a podcast. So usually at the beginning of the podcast, we do a mental check-in for everyone. But I know the past weeks has just been an emotionally draining time, especially for Black America. So I just want to check in about like how are you doing and like what are all the emotions you're feeling right now.
For me personally, I'm definitely doing a lot better than I was about a week or maybe 2 weeks ago. I think one of the few good things that's come out of the last couple of weeks is that the Black community has come together really well. So Black kids at my school that I didn't necessarily talk to as much as I did before. The tragic murder of George Floyd, I've been talking to a lot more now. I've been offering my support to them. They've been offering their support to me. So I definitely feel a lot better because of that. My initial reaction was definitely a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and just general fatigue. But I definitely do feel a lot better now. It's because of support throughout the Black community.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're able to have that support. So the common phrase that people have been talking about is the ACAB and like what a 1213. Wait, did someone add that?
1213. It's just the
1213.
numerical values for ACAB. So it's just another thing you see. Some of the graffiti is like F word 12.
Wait, isn't it 1312?
Is it 1312? It's
1312.
I'm wrong. It's 1312. It's okay. It's 1312.
Either way.
Okay, that makes more sense. So I thought we would just explain or clarify what does like that term and also like the term defund the police mean.
Yeah. That was something that I'm just gonna give a bit background. It's like the town that I live in because it's insane. So I live in Pelham, New York. It's like 30 minutes outside the city. It's like Westchester County. It's super white, super rich. Kind of split on Democrats and Republicans. And technically it's called the Pelhams because there's two towns. There's the village of Pelham and then there's the village of Pelham Manor. And you would think since it's a town of like 12,000 people, there'd be one police department, right? But there's two for each town. So that's something that and they both each have a budget. I believe I looked at the numbers yesterday. The Manor budget is about $4.5 million, and the Village of Pelham budget is about $3.3 million, and it's just and so much of the money goes towards like new cars and new uniforms. Like if you look at the statistics of our town, we have an above average size police department, but we have a below average crime rate. Like it's not necessary to have the two police departments. And it's just like when that was a big thing because like our budget just got passed for the year. So a lot of people were talking about where could the money go that was just
Mm-hmm.
put in.
Wait, so they didn't take any money away from
They
the
did
police
not.
budget?
But that's something that a couple of
Wow. How did your
what?
or how did your town react to that?
I don't really know how a lot of people reacted because I've just been like talking about it with this one group in my town called Pelham United, which is a group of like Pelham high school alums and like some seniors, and they all came back to Pelham. Like a lot of them are POC, and they were like, I've lived in this town my entire life, and we need to point out what's happening here. And a lot of them were very, very upset that such a huge part of the budget was placed towards the police departments when only like $300,000 is placed towards Parks and Rec, and then like only about 1,000, I believe, was put towards community engagement, and no one could figure out what that was when we were trying to figure out what it meant. So, and from what I can tell, only the village of Pelham has that. Pelham Manor does not.
So, Katie, you mentioned that your town has a relatively low crime rate, and there were a lot of discussions about replacing the police with social workers or mental health professionals. So, with such a big budget, do you think like the police in your town like even did their job with the budget they have?
Well, my town is majority of the crimes are, and I'm putting air quotes around crimes because the arrests that are made every year is about 100 something each year, not like month, year. And then a lot of the reasons the cops get called are because they're teenagers hanging out, or they're having a party, or such and such. Like, these teenagers are walking around the town they live in, so 3 cop cars now have to go and stop them and find out what's happening. And like, we had an incident just over this weekend at a restaurant in our town called Rockwell's, where a woman from Colorado, she was ID'd because it's a bar, because she wanted to buy a drink, and because I guess the bartender thought she was underage. I don't know what, but she was black, and so she got carded, and he didn't really believe that like it was her real ID because it said Colorado, and she was from out of town, and but she came here because she graduated from Pelham, but she lived in Colorado now, and she was coming back. And then when she left for the night, she left her pocketbook there by accident. And like, majority of the time when someone leaves a pocketbook at a restaurant, you leave it in the back, or to like wait for someone to come and pick it up again, right? Well, one of the people at Rockwell's, like one of the management, called the cops for this woman's bag. And I still don't know why. And like, they've released a statement and everything, and like, I don't doubt that like it obviously wasn't the entirety of the restaurant staff and management that was like, hey, call the cops on a purse being left here, but there was that one person who did it. And it's just there's a metaphor here, but I can't think of it. There's something that like ruins. It's like the one bad apple ruins the bunch thing. Am I making sense?
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people say, oh, it's just a couple of bad apples in the police force. It's not like all of them, not. And then they forget about the second half of the saying. It's like a couple of bad apples.
Is that an actual saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. I think that the point is, well, like, I guess this is the way that I interpret ACAB, because a lot of people have an issue with ACAB, and they say like, oh, it's not all cops, like, but I think that it's not attacking the cops on like an individual level or like they're like who they are as a person, but rather the fact that they're actively participating in a system that is corrupt and like like actively oppresses people of color, whether they are doing it individually or not. Like it's the system itself
Yeah.
that's messed up and represents uh just systemic oppression in general. The the justice system, I think, is one of the most unfair systems in America, in my opinion, and it's like
Mhm.
really skewed, and it's really biased. So
Right.
that's why people are, protesting. And there are a lot of people who also say, like, oh, people are just protesting because of George Floyd, but now his killers got convicted or whatever, and like now you guys can stop, right? Now things can go back to normal. But there is a much larger issue that we're dealing with, and it's not only like justice for George Floyd, but it's justice like so that this doesn't happen again.
Exactly. So we talk about investing back to the community. So I just want to ask, like, what would that look like for your community, for example? Well, like, what are some ways that they can do that?
I mean, a good way, like with the money from the police department's budget, is to give it towards the schools. Like my town we have a middle school, high school, and we have 4 elementary schools. And everyone, and I was talking about this yesterday at a vigil held for George Floyd, and I was saying how it should go towards the school's lunch programs because no child should have to worry about if they're going to have money to pay for lunch that day. They shouldn't have to worry about if they're going to get fed or not.
Yeah, I think it.
Wait, one sec.
At least. Oh, okay, my bad.
Oh no, it's fine, it's fine. Just like, does anyone hear the
Yeah.
background noise?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I probably would have noticed it anyway, but just like um I notice it a lot when I'm editing. So I don't know like whoever it is, but like maybe like go into a separate room a little bit or like close the door maybe or something. Like I can edit this part out, but
Or earbuds, at least.
yeah, earbuds are good.
Wait, is it me?
I don't
Because
know.
I'm wearing earbuds,
It's
but
Yeah.
like if
it doesn't matter. Like
Who it is.
yeah, I think it
Okay.
stopped. Yeah,
Yeah, it's good now.
yeah. Ethan,
okay,
go on with your point, and then I'll
Okay.
yeah.
Um, so I agree with Katie. I think education is important, especially like educating, or including in the public education system. Education on like race relations in America and on the factual history of especially Black people in America, because I think education from a young age can definitely skew your point of view as you get older, or one way or the other. But I think, especially where I live in Boston, a big problem right now is, gentrification. And I think if we took the money from the police budget and we reallocated it to like affordable housing, um, and like government housing programs, I think that would be a pretty good way to kind of, because I think no one should have to worry about where they're going to go home at night. And I think that like one of the big factors of crime, or that leads to, quote unquote crime, like, selling drugs or something, is that you don't have a stable income, and you need to pay the rent. So I think by having affordable housing in place, we that kind of does tackle a big part of quote unquote crime with, selling drugs or robbing stores or something to feed your family, or um, to to put a roof over your children's like heads or whatever. And so I think that affordable housing is really important, especially in neighborhoods that are being rapidly gentrified. And I don't know if Adozi can speak more on that because he does live in a more um, gentrified neighborhood than I live in currently. Um, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ethan makes an excellent point. I've definitely witnessed gentrification that's kind of ravaging a lot of people's livelihoods. I live in Roxbury, Massachusetts, which is a majority black neighborhood, and it's slowly starting to the black population of Roxbury is slowly starting to dwindle. You're seeing a lot more white people come in. A lot of black people that are getting priced out of their houses, which is unfortunate. So I definitely think that a good amount of that money should go into affordable housing. And as I believe Anjali said, education as well. But one of the third place where I think that money could also go is criminal justice reform. If you look at a lot of public defenders' offices, they're really, really underfunded. So we've all seen the videos of people getting arrested for driving while black or just living while black, just sitting in their car at a traffic stop or something, and they get pulled over, and they get booked. The officer brings them in for absolutely no good reason, and a lot of people think, okay, but that guy gets to get out after that. But in a lot of cases, let's say that someone gets arrested just for sitting at a traffic stop. An officer says, oh, they were resisting arrest. They get booked on resisting arrest. They get given a public defender because they can't afford an actual lawyer. That public defender is ridiculously underfunded, has like 20 different cases on their plate. So it tells them to just take a plea deal, even though they did absolutely nothing. Instead of fighting the charge, I guess let's take a plea deal because it's the easiest thing to do. So now all of a sudden that person is either serving time or is on probation for the next 2 years and has a record and has now a charge on their record. And that's something that happens to a lot of black people, not just in Boston, but all around the country. And one of the ways we can combat that is by not only providing funding to public defenders' offices, but providing staffing to them, because a lot of them are also understaffed. So a lot of lawyers are getting more cases than they really should be getting. The other way we can, I guess, help criminal justice reform is helping people once they come out of prison. It seems like for a lot of white people, when they come out of jail, it's rehab. The first thing they get is rehab because they can afford it. But a lot of black people and Latino people, they're not necessarily able to afford that rehab once they come out of prison, so they're right back into prison within the next year or so. I think it's about 40% of people who are released from prison on drug charges end up back in jail in the next 5 years, which is absurd. And the numbers are ridiculously skewed for black and brown people. So I think if we provide funding in those two areas of criminal justice reform, it could end up being a really, really good thing.
Yeah, I agree with.
That was really
sorry.
helpful.
Yeah. I definitely agree, and I think that a lot of it is just a vicious cycle, no matter what way you look at it. Because, well, for example, going back to the education system, like Katie said, um, like if you look at the difference in funding between black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods, since schools are funded by taxes from said neighborhoods, you know, like obviously someone who lives in a wealthier neighborhood, which is typically um, like white neighborhoods due to just like hundreds of years of what's the word? I think it's
Colonialization.
colonialization, yeah. Um, so what was I saying? Yeah. So if you look at it that way, then if white people are like it's easier for them to have access to a better quality education, then it's easier to get into a better college. And then from there, or like college at all. So then from there, once you get into college, then that gives you more opportunities for better and more high paying jobs. And what do you do with those high paying jobs? You go and you buy a house that's worth more in a neighborhood like that's wealthier, and then from there you can send your kids to a better school, and it's just it's really hard to break out of that cycle. And
Yeah.
I mentioned my dad
Yeah.
because he grew up in the Bronx, and I know that like it's not the same as being a black person in America because like I think that black people are more oppressed, but as a Puerto Rican, you know, like he has shared his experiences with me, and he's also been like stopped by police for no reason, or like very, I guess, petty reasons or unreasonable reasons. And actually recently, or not recently, but I think it was last year, When They See Us came out on Netflix. And
Mm.
if you don't know what that is, it's about like the Central Park Five. And my dad actually, he went to school with Raymond Santana, who was one of the kids in the Central Park Five. And after watching the the like it's not really a documentary, but after watching the series, I saw like he was crying because like he realized that could have been him in that situation. Like they really just
Mhm.
took five random kids who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And he shared with me that when he saw it on the news, he said that he couldn't believe it because when they were in middle school together, him and Raymond would like share about, I don't know, comic books or something like stupid like that. Or not stupid, but you know what I mean, like silly things or like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And he said like, "Oh no, I couldn't believe like that Raymond would do something like that." Like
Mhm.
and when you look back on it and he wasn't guilty of it at all, but they just wanted to pin it on someone who like people would believe they went straight for minorities, like racial minorities. And even though that happened so long ago, if that story were to come out today, it wouldn't be far-fetched at all. And I think that just shows that we haven't really progressed like at all. Or like
Mhm.
not that we haven't progressed at all, but we really haven't come close to where we should be in terms of racial equality.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. To summarize what y'all have talked about, we kind of agree that systematic racism is definitely not just about police brutality. It's like the unequal education opportunity, like Andrew said. Like if the schools are funded by property tax, people from like different neighborhood would not have like, for example, like a kid from like a wealthier neighborhood can get a tutor and have like all those extracurricular opportunities, while like a kid from like a poor neighborhood can't.
Mhm.
And yeah, we kind of talk about generational unequal wealth distribution. Anyway, anyway, that no. So, Adozi, you mentioned that your mom is a public defender. So, do you want to talk about some of the cases that you witnessed her doing?
Sure. I'm trying to think of an example. Um, I think one the best way to describe, I guess, the systemic racism affects her job wouldn't necessarily be to talk about her cases, but to talk about one of her students, because she works with this institute called CJI, where she essentially helps law students that want to become public defenders or want experience in the public defender area. They try cases with her, so she goes with them to different courtrooms across the state and tries cases and that kind of stuff. And I remember she was. This has happened multiple times, but the most recent one was in West Roxbury Court. She had this client. I won't say his name, but this white man, like a little over 20, like very relatively young, like under 25. Um, he's never tried a case before in his life. My mom has been a lawyer for more than 20 years, and they go into the courtroom, and they're like, and my mom walks in, and then the guy waiting, the security guard asks for her bar card, even though she's been there several times. They know her there, and she's like, "Why do you need to see my bar card?" She's like, "Just want to see it." So he asks to see her bar card. They put her through security, that kind of stuff. She goes in. The student comes after her, and the security guard says, "Go on in, counsel." Just assuming that he's a lawyer. They're both dressed in suits, yet only one gets stopped at security asking to see if they're a lawyer or not. I'll give you another example. She was in Quincy court. She walks into the courtroom. The the bailiff at the courtroom asks her if she's the interpreter for the case because the client there couldn't speak English. She sits down, shows him her bar card, and says, "No, I'm a lawyer. I'm representing this person." So this is just two of like many instances in which this has happened over her career, where there's this assumption that you couldn't really have made it in that field. And those are just the microaggressions. So just imagine, and these are the people that are going to be that are in charge of our criminal justice system. These are the ones that come when you call 911. These are the ones that you see that are going to be judging you if you ever get in trouble with the law. So it's just a little window into just how broken our criminal justice system is, if these are the people that are in charge of it.
Wow. That make me have even less faith in the criminal justice system. I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we know that people criminalize, or like the system criminalize drug use and like homelessness and like stuff like that to, in a large part, to oppress Black people, especially. And I also, oh wait, let's talk about the, like, it just came to like many people's attention that like donating to Ball Fund is a way to help, because like I didn't even know that you have to pay like amount of money to like get out of like to have your case even be like reviewed, you know.
Yeah. Bail funds are another way in which inequality comes into play, because you could have not committed a crime. Like, let's say there's a poor Black guy gets stopped by the police on suspicion of drug possession. He gets arrested. He didn't commit the crime, but the judge sets the bail at $5,000. So he can either do that. He can either fight the charge, stay in jail, or post bail and go home, or take a plea deal and just accept the charge. He's most likely going to accept the plea deal so he can go home, but now he has a record on his charge because he doesn't want to stay there and he can't post bail. Whereas if there's a rich white person who has the money to actually post bail, he could get out. So just another way in which inequality comes into play. So bail funds are an excellent way in which to combat that.
So besides bail fund, I know. Okay, I mentioned this in the interview with a protest leader I had, and I told her that okay, it's never the Black person's responsibility to educate us, but like, and she said, I live in a white majority neighborhood and I'm used to it, and and she told me like all these ways that we can help, but I still don't want to like put the responsibility on a Black person. So let's talk about what are some ways that we can help the movement in general.
Protesting for one, and donating are two really big ones. And I know that a lot of people aren't able to do those, whether it's because you're immunocompromised and you still have to be wary of the virus, or if it's because like you don't have the means in which to donate. But there are a lot of free things that you can do as well. Like I know I've been signing a lot of petitions, especially on like change.org. They make it really easy for you to like sign petitions with just like clicking a button, and even sharing petitions really helps as well, because I know that like it's so much easier to find the right petitions that you need to be signing when people just have like an easy link in their bio, or even something small like that can really like make an impact. And another thing is that there are a lot of nice people on YouTube who have set up videos that you can watch, and then when you watch them, the ad revenue goes to the Black Lives Matter movement, and that's like a really easy way if you just let the videos run and then you don't press skip ad to contribute and help out from home in any way that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are some good ideas. And also calling your mayor, calling your state representative, and like okay, even big business. I think this is something that another person told me is that like if you are a retail worker at somewhere, you can talk to your boss or talk to other employees,
Mm-hmm.
and also having difficult conversations.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I know how hard it is because my family came from like a culture that like is rooted in anti blackness too, and like the
Mm-hmm.
conversations didn't go well. But I still think it's a step forward,
Yeah.
and like having the conversations with your families and peers, and like not just talk to people who agree with you really helps.
Yeah, exactly. Like having conversations that you know are going to be uncomfortable, but like could really be worth it because, you know, like, I feel like a lot of people just aren't educated or don't know about the problem. So, like, at least for me, like, I've been taking a similar approach to like Ocean, just sitting down with, you know, people like even in my family who, um, just aren't informed or are like ignorant to the problems in our society, and like having those conversations and trying to, you know, um, at least like get the point of view like across. Like I because a lot of these people like I think a problem today is that like people kind of surround themselves with um whom they agree, and I think like don't get like the perspective of the person across the aisle, and so just um you know kind of breaking that barrier um aisle and to um don't agree with you I think is important, but that's what I've been I think that's pretty effective in terms of you know helping out the movement.
Yeah. Also vote in November. Like and not just for the presidential vote like election either. There are like so many other other campaigns, not campaigns. There's so many other places that you can vote, and it's really important to get the right people in office because they can like start making changes to the laws and like
Mm-hmm.
immediately. But also, I saw a lot of people like debating like how should we like the performative like activism on social media, and like when should we stop posting like quote unquote normally again. So what do you think about that?
I think that that's
Yeah.
like a good question. I,
I mean, like looking at my like, I don't want to say my dash, I guess, on Instagram, my timeline,
your feed,
like
your feed,
my feed,
you
my
Tumblr
caption.
user,
Yeah,
could
shut up.
spot you from a mile away. My
Shut up.
dash.
My dash. It's like it's basically gone back to like people are posting photos of them at the beach, and people are just like loving that school's over, ha ha ha, stuff like that. Like ironically, the only place where I'm still seeing like more and more information coming up is like the meme accounts I follow. Like
Mm.
it's like a meme, and then there's like 8 slides of like ways that you can help, links to bail funds, and like links to educate yourself, stuff like that. Like that's where I'm seeing it. Like it's gone from like all of the other people in my town though.
Yeah.
The reason I want to bring it up is that I have also been seeing like my friends posting quote unquote normally, and I personally feel weird about it because it's like it links to the question that okay, I'm afraid that people are gonna stop talking about it. I'm afraid that people who are not directly affected will just go on with their life after 2 weeks of posting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I don't know how to start a conversation about this. I don't know if I reach out to them and be like, "Hey, I would prefer it if you not post a selfie during the Black Lives Matter movement." I don't know if that's
Yeah, it's a
acceptable.
really tough situation because like on one hand, I feel like you're not like obligated to, unless they're like a really close friend, then you could like I guess have a conversation with them about it and be like, like, are you aware of what's going on right now? And just like, I guess, but at the same time, it's like they should have the same responsibility as you to educate themselves, as well as like just be respectful, because if you can do it and you didn't have anyone telling you to do it, then what's stopping them besides the fact that they don't want to see it or they don't want to think about it? Because there's no way that they don't know about what's going on right now. But it's just a willful blindness that like people need to realize for themselves is wrong. And I think that that applies to a lot of things, like kind of off topic, but just like in general, people's views. Like, I think that no matter what you tell someone, unless, like, I don't know, 9 times out of 10, if you, 9 times out of 10, if you, like, preach to someone about your beliefs, right? Like, not saying that's wrong, but just saying that it won't resonate with them the same way as if they come to the realization themselves. Because the only way to really be genuine about the change and not not post selfies or whatever or beach photos, like just because you don't want to get backlash from other people, but like out of a genuine respect, is like if that person realizes it themselves that it's wrong. But I think that you should also, instead of taking the time to pose for photos and post, do things that will, one, benefit the movement, or not one, benefit the movement, but just like, even if it's something like taking a look at yourself and your own like underlying racism that you might have and not realize. Like, now more than any time, we're in the middle of a quarantine, a time when a lot of people have been reflecting. Now would be a good time to like just confront your prejudices that you might have, like without realizing it, and just educate yourself and realize that maybe the way that things are being done now, even though they don't affect you, like it's like it's not right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's keep educating ourselves. Is there anything that anyone wants to bring up?
Um, should we do a part 2 of this?
This is definitely a discussion that needs to continue.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like we haven't covered everything, so
Thank you so much for being our guest today, Aduzi. We're linking some helpful resources and places you can donate to in the description below. Don't forget to check out our blog on theincandescentreview.org for more information and news stories about the Black Lives Matter movement. Thank you so much for listening to the IR podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment or review. Please go follow us on Instagram at the Incandescent Review. The submissions for our fall issue is now open, and you are more than welcome to submit our website. Take care of yourself, keep fighting, and remember, Black lives always matter.
Hi guys, it's Angeli. I know that we haven't been on for the last couple of weeks, but due to scheduling issues, we had to move some things around. But it's okay, we're back. It's cool. As always, the Incandescent stands with the Black Lives Matter movement, and we hope that you have a great day. Bye.